Hello friends, how are you? I'm back with another video. Today let's talk about bearings of the motorcycles. There are different kinds of motorcycle bearings. For an example, there are journal bearings and there are roller bearings and there are tamper bearings, different types of bearings, but especially on the outside of the motorcycle. In the sense, excluding the engine compartment, there are three places where steering bearings are located. One is at the steering column, one is located here and one is down here. These two are a pair, these two go in a pair and has to be replaced as a pair. And another location is this front wheel. There is a bearing in here and bearing in here, and at the rear wheel, one at here and one on this side. Okay. Basically, regarding replacement of the bearings, there is not adequate information provided in the ownership manual, especially for these small displacement motorcycles or inexpensive, like what's pricing in 3 to 4 lakhs or somewhere around 5 lakhs range motorcycles. Adequate information is not given regarding the bearing replacement. For an example, if you look at the Himalayan, we don't know when the bearings are to be replaced. And other thing is, the bearing replacement and the bearing wear and tear level differs on the scenario of riding too. If you take it off road, there is so much beating being imparted onto the bearing, so they tend to give up very easily. And if you are going for highway riding where the bearings are like properly lubricated and there is no stress on the bearings, especially excluding the high speed riding, they can last for a quite long time, somewhere like 40,000, 50,000, even 80,000 kilometers. But in the off-roading scenario, or if you hit a pothole, the bearings can get damaged, especially in the steering column and in the front wheel. So now let's diagnose them and check whether them are like functioning properly or not, and we can get them replaced if necessary. It's better, if you are gonna diagnose the steering head bearings, you better put the motorcycle on main stand. If you don't have a main stand, you better use a paddock, or else the job can get a bit difficult. If you have a main stand, it's very easy process. You can do it in a matter of like 2-3 minutes. Yeah, the motorcycle is on the main stand. Now let's diagnose the bearings. Now let's begin with diagnosing the steering head bearings. For that, you have to lift the front portion of the vehicle into air. So you may take the assistance of someone, and my friend is assisting me. So he hopped onto the motorcycle and the front wheel came into air. Is lifted up basically. Now, to diagnose the steering head bearings, we have to do it in 2 steps. First step is to pull the steering head or hold the forks firmly and make sure that the steering is tight or the handle is tight, and pull the shock absorbers towards you. And if it makes any clicking noise or any weird noise coming from the steering head area, then the bearings are short. You don't have to hear any sound. A small bit of play is fine, but if you are able to hear a decent amount of noise, that means the bearings are busted. And the other thing is, like hold the front tire or the handlebar in straight in position, and then slowly turn it towards the right side, slowly, as I'm doing. And the turning should happen in a smooth way. You should not feel any increased or decreased resistance when you are turning, and do it for the left side too. Slowly. And you don't expect any sort of like stops or increased motion or decreased motion and any resistance. Then that means there are like sort of dents formed in the casing of the bearing and the bearing is busted. That means it's time for you to replace the steering head bearing. The first step is to pull, and then is to like rotate it towards right or left and check it. That's how easy it is to diagnose steering head bearings. Basically, there are 2 steps involved in diagnosing the bearings of front wheel. The first one is the yanking method, like pulling and pushing method. Hold the wheel at two places at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, opposite to each other, and then pull from one side and push from one side, like basically yank it side to side. Do it. Now turn it this side and do it. Okay. Now turn the tire for 120 degrees roughly, and then repeat the same. Yank it from side to side, pull and push from right hand, pull from left hand, then do the same on this side, and then turn the motorcycle 120 degrees once again, and then repeat the same. Then the first step is done. You have to like cover the 360 degrees of the tire, and then the other method is place the thumb near the axle, on the axle of the front wheel, or and hold the forks slightly, and then rotate the wheel as fast as you can. And now while the wheel is rotating, place your thumb near, as much as near to the wheel, and don't make sure that you don't injure yourself. Maintain a slight distance. Then if the when the wheel is rotating, it should not create any vibrations, and if you feel any vibrations coming out of the axle or fork area, then that means that the bearing is done and it's busted and it's time for you to replace. Basically hold it and rotate it, and there should not be any vibrations or any play in the wheel, and make sure that it is rotating correctly and not budging towards one side or not moving towards one side. That's it. The front wheel bearing is done. The first step is to yank it from side to side, and the second step is to hold on to these wheels and forks and rotate it. That's it. Now let's diagnose the rear wheel. It is same as the front wheel. You have to do it in 3 steps. Hold them clockwise, hold the wheel in 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock position, and yank it from side to side, and the wheel should not move, and rotate the tire 120 degrees and yank it from side to side, and it should not move. It should stay rock solid in place. Repeat this, and look at it. Now there is no noise, and the bearings are not worn, and they are working fine. And if anyone suggests you to like replace the bearings, it is of not required. So you can simply do this and save a few bucks. Thank you.